Everybody knows about the Ultramarines, Blood Angels, and Space Wolves, but what about their other brothers who bleed for the Emperor in silence, at least in Warhammer 40k lore? Well, today we're going to talk about 10 Space Marine chapters that you might not be aware of. Today we're going to be talking about 10 Space Marine chapters you might not be aware of that have gone kind of forgotten in lore. There's a few of these that are pretty niche popular for the more experienced and seasoned Space Marine players, but some of these I didn't actually know about until I started researching them, which is kind of sad. So for this video, we're going to focus on some Loyalist chapters, and we're going to brush briefly over the hobby and tabletop aspects of it, as well as where you can find some of the lore in books. Some of these lore references are very sparse, so I will give you the best possible literature that I can, given the lack of depth of information we have. So for this list, there's a few different criteria I went down. But first, this is not going to be any specific order. I went with just whichever ones popped into my head first and worked through it that way. The only exception to that is the very last one, which was probably the first one that came to mind as soon as I started thinking of this list. They have a very cult following that I think you guys are going to be able to guess who it is pretty fast. But to make this list, I had three simple criteria. First, they had to be loyal. We'll do the Rogues and Chaos Space Marine warbands later in similar videos if you guys really like this. If you do, let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe so that I know that this video is something you guys are going to enjoy. The second criteria is that it could not be one of the first founding legions. So none of the 9 Loyalist legions are going to be in this list. And third, they need to be at least somewhat underrated for the Warhammer 40k community and have a little bit of lore so that I can run with it. There's a lot of successor chapters that are literally just in codexes and pictures with their name. So I didn't pick any of those. I went with some that have some tangible lore. So let's dive into this and start with our very first Space Marine chapter, and that is the Celestial Lions. The Celestial Lions are a very stoic and noble chapter that came from the Imperial Fists. The Imperial Fists have a lot of very interesting successor chapters. Unlike the Ultramarines, who pumped out just Ultramarine version green, Ultramarine version blue, Ultramarine version silver, the Imperial Fists have some really interesting successor chapters like the Black Templars and the Celestial Lions. And these two chapters actually ended up on a very opposite side of a conversation when the Celestial Lions did not like what the Inquisition was doing and spoke up about it. They were actually nearly wiped out because of it, but they still remain today, and they have managed to get some stability back. From a hobby angle, they're pretty unique as well. They come with the reverse of an Ultramarine color scheme, where they are gold with blue accents. So if you want to use the blue and gold, but you don't want to play Ultramarines, this is how you do it. The Celestial Lions have a lot of really cool heraldry that gives them the ability to really stand out in a crowd, even amongst the Sons of Dorn. But they aren't able to get all of the assets that they once were able to because of their beef with the Inquisition. So on top of being shiny gold and blue, they are going to be pretty weathered and beaten up because they are still fighting actively in a lot of different combat zones, despite not having the resupply that they really should have as a Space Marine chapter. So this leads to a lot of really cool opportunities for tabletop and paint schemes that I think you guys are going to really like. Now for the book, you're going to want to read Blood and Fire. This story does have a lot of Celestial Lions. It does have some other branches as well that gives you a few different varieties. And like I said, a lot of these stories, they're either going to be featured in it or at least have a cameo in it where you can get some of their lore. But unfortunately, not all of these stories are going to be perfect fits like War of the Beast would be for the Imperial Fists. And we can only glean what we can. But to be fair, this also gives you a lot of room for creativity. It gives you room to stretch and tweak things because the Celestial Lions may not be completely Codex compliant. They don't really have a reason to be. They're shunned by the Inquisition and a lot of the other chapters because of what the Inquisition has done to them. And it gives you that ability to play around and really have some fun with them. Next, we're going to jump over to the Angels Vermillion and talk about them.
We stand ready.
If you want to go mysterious and secretive, but you don't want to play Dark Angels, the Angels Vermillion are probably your best option. They're a successor chapter of the Blood Angels, and they've taken that vampiric nature just a little too far for a lot of the other Sons of Sanguinius' taste. They're rumored to practice a lot of dark rites, as well as blood sacrifices, and a lot of other things tied to the Red Thirst and Black Rage to try and sate it. They are a lot more unstable and difficult to be around for a lot of the other successor chapters of the Blood Angels, as well as the Blood Angels themselves. But you do actually get to see some of them a little bit in the Devastation of Baal. But these guys have their own story, the Blooded, that you guys can really enjoy and get to know them better. And the best part is, these guys are pretty easy to spot on a tabletop if somebody's a fan. They're going to be a striking red, almost a blood red color that gives them a really unique standout, along with their gothic aspects, and a lot of times they're accented with black, so that black on red gives them something that you don't really get to see anywhere else. So I've seen them on the tabletop a couple times in my LGS, and I really enjoy them. They're a cool chapter that would be a lot of fun to learn more about, because I don't really know a ton about the Blood Angels and their successor chapters. Next, we're going to go to the chapter that actually inspired all of this. But first, we're going to have a word from our sponsors. Hey everybody, today's video is brought to you by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink company that does a lot of really cool stuff. I'm not a huge energy drink person, but I've come around to these guys. They sent me this cool limited edition flavor that I've really enjoyed so far, as well as a bunch of sampler packs, and my personal favorite, Dubby Hydro. Dubby Hydro is basically Gatorade on steroids without all of the bad chemicals mixed in there. It's been really great to experiment and try that out. And unlike a lot of the super artificial, nasty tasting energy drinks, in my opinion, not a huge fan of Monster or Red Bull, but this nice clean flavor that is very few ingredients. And if we look at, I don't know if you guys can see that there, there's maybe 10 ingredients total, and most of them are fruit extracts that keep you nice and healthy and give you the energy you need throughout your day. So go check them out at w.gg/wargamer, or use the code word wargame in your checkout to get 10% off. There'll be a link down in the description below for the starter kit. You can also get other flavors there as well. I'm a huge fan of those, and I definitely would recommend it.
Weapons at ready. It is time.
As you guys may know, we just recently did a lore accurate list based on Elemental Council, which was a phenomenal Tau book. But there was a successor chapter in there that was really striking and caught my eye that I didn't really know much about, and that was the Raptors. The Raptors take stealth to a whole new level, even though they are a Raven Guard successor chapter, using shadow abilities and camouflage to infiltrate and run pragmatic guerrilla-style fights that put them often on the back foot. A lot of times, if the Raptors are involved, it's not the entire chapter. You're dealing with a squad here or there, maybe two. If more than a squad or two of Raptors is involved, things have gotten very bad. And they are hard at work, actively trying to disrupt things and protect themselves. So these Raptors are really interesting on the tabletop. They will play very, very differently than a lot of other things. You're going to see a lot more Reavers and Eliminators in this chapter, actively working with camo cloaks like you'd see on the Tanith First, or some mimetic camouflage on occasion. And it's a really, really unique chapter that I've actually never seen on the tabletop. I would love to see somebody actually do this, and I'm sure if I spent some time on Google, I could probably find some pictures of someone who has. But these Space Marines use camo pattern. They use often what's referred to as frog style camo. They would have been pretty popular during the Vietnam War on their armor. Sometimes you can do some urban camo as well, but typically they're known for that very forest camo, jungle camo type of look. This chapter is going to be kind of the Kit Basher's dream. You're going to get to play a lot with unique things, 3D printed camo cloaks, color schemes, helmets. They are pretty famous for having those beaky helmets that have a lot of extra sensors and different stealth capabilities built into them. So you're going to do a lot of really cool, unique things that are going to make your Space Marine chapter look very, very different on the tabletop. And like we discussed, Elemental Council has a lot of different chapters based from a Raptors point of view. It really helps you understand what the chapter is, what they're like, and what their beliefs and standards are. So I definitely check out Elemental Council if you're interested in the Raptors.
Abhor the demon!
If you're wanting barbaric, axe-wielding Space Marines that take feudal oaths and strive for combat success over anything else, you need to check out the Executioners. The Executioners are an Imperial Fist successor chapter. Like I said, the Imperial Fist probably get the cake for the most unique successor chapters. Clearly, Dorn Standard was considered boring by a lot of his sons, and they split off in some very unique directions. These guys specialize in heavy armor and heavy melee. They love thunderhammers, they love shields, they love Terminator armor and Gravis armor. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of heavy armor punching units. You'll likely also be using a lot of transports to move them around so that you can get them places. On top of that, you will have some pretty cool dreadnoughts you can work with as well. So if you like that aesthetic, the Executioners might be for you. Story-wise, they have a story called Death Speakers that seems pretty interesting. I haven't had a chance to read it myself, but it did get a lot of really good reviews online. So check out Death Speakers if you're interested in the Executioners. Next, we have the High Lord of Terra's Executioners, the Brazen Minotaurs. Often just referred to as Minotaurs in stories, these mysterious Space Marines aren't really given much of a backstory. We don't know much about them except for a lot of other Space Marines don't like it when they're there. They're there for the brutality that is required. They're some of the most brutal Space Marines when it comes to combat and actions against civilians and things like that. If they show up, they're just one step away from the Inquisition and brutality, and are often seen to chastise and punish other Space Marine chapters as well. This is seen in Bad Ab Wars as well as a few other places throughout the lore. And if you want to see that in the story, check out Old Scars. This is a pretty interesting story that I think you guys are going to really like. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Once again, all of the reviews were really good about it, and it was very well spoken of. Next, we're going to talk about another one of their Bad Ab Wars companions, the Red Scorpions. The Red Scorpions are another one of the Bad Ab chapters that isn't really seen outside of the Bad Ab Wars for lore, which is really sad. They're a mysterious founding chapter, so we don't know who they come from, but they're striking black with yellow accents and red scorpions makes them very distinguishable on the tabletop. And a lot of times you're going to see them coming through from some of the older players that have been collecting red scorpions for quite a while. I have an older player at my LGS who's been playing since, I believe, 2nd edition. He runs a Red Scorpions army on occasion. The Red Scorpions are obsessed with purity. They strive for perfection in their gene seed and perfection in their doctrine and their tactics, which kind of makes me suspect that they're Ultramarines that just got lost somehow because Gilman wasn't around for a while and couldn't do his Excel spreadsheets to keep track of his sons. But we don't know for sure, which is really interesting with how obsessed they are with that purity of gene seed.
For the Emperor!
Continuing on to our third Space Marine chapter that was involved in the Bad Ab Wars, we're going to be talking about the Fire Angels. The Fire Angels chapter is an extremely zealous chapter that is obsessed with their ties to the ecclesiarchy and their faith in the Emperor. So much so that they use fire to purify everything. So think hybrid between Salamanders and Black Templars. They're obsessed and zealous like the Black Templars, but they love fire. Fire's their thing. That's what they do. So if you want to play fire heavy units, but you don't want to be the Salamanders, you don't want to paint that green and all the flames, the Fire Angels are definitely for you. On top of that, they have a very striking red and black scheme with often black ghost flames on their armor. So if you're wanting to try out some of that, you can definitely ghost that into the red armor and give it a really, really cool feel. Now, if you're wanting to read more about them, you're going to have to go to the Bad Ed Wars books, just like you will with a couple of the others we've just mentioned, which is unfortunate. I would love to see some of these chapters come to life in the more modern 40k world, even though we know they weren't lost. So they are running around there somewhere. And I'm sure eventually we may see some of these stories tied in. I know Games Workshop is focusing heavily on the Primarchs and them coming back, but getting to see some of these more unknown chapters given actual Primarchs and their founding would be really, really cool to see, and I think could lend some really cool storytelling as well. And now that we're done with the Bad Ed chapters, let's have one more word from our sponsors and then continue to the last three. Today's video is brought to you by me and my company, Tartary Press. This is the company that manages both my writing career and Readers of the Wargame. And we've got a couple big announcements. You might have actually heard last week that our website is up and running. And that's true. We also have some really cool merch on there. That's www.tylertartar.com. I'll have it pop up right here for you. And there you'll be able to get Readers of the Wargame merch, all of my books, and merch related to my books as well. So make sure you go check that out. But to make it even better, we also have the Readers of the Wargame Patreon that is available now. So you can go to the link in the description to the Patreon and check that out. We have some really cool tiers going with just a basic $2 tier where you get early access to each video. My goal is to have those early accesses come out on Friday, so you have the entire weekend to watch them before they go live for everyone else on Tuesday. We have a $5 tier where you get to vote on at least 2 of the episodes each month so that you can see what you want to see on this channel. And I'm super excited to have a lot more availability with you guys so that you can make those votes and choose and be more involved in this channel as well. We also have a $10 tier. This $10 tier includes everything from the first 2 tiers, but it also includes access to our community Discord and our community army. As you guys may remember from some of our posts and things like that on the channel, we've been building a custom army together using the polls, and I'm going to start naming units after you guys. At the $10 tier, it will be just a standard infantry unit, but there's a 4th tier. This one, honestly, if you guys want to do this, I appreciate it a lot. I don't expect it, but that one is the War Master tier. That tier is $100 a month, but you will be one of the main characters in the army. And on top of that, each quarter when I create a new shirt, you will get a copy. So make sure you guys go and check out that Patreon as well as our website to get really cool merch, access to my books, and on the Patreon, access to all of the videos early, community discords, and things like that. And let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below or on Patreon so that we can make this even better for all of you. Now let's get back to the video. So this next one is one of my personal favorites, and that is the Storm Wardens. The Storm Wardens are a successor chapter of the White Scars, but unlike their original cousins, they are not actually the Mongol type. They're all of the librarians and psychic-heavy branch of the White Scars. The White Scars still are, but the Storm Wardens took that to a whole nother level. Their homeworld has a lot more Celtic or Scottish feel to them, so they are very Celtic. They have tartans and styles like that to make them very unique to a lot of the Space Marine chapters. So you're going to see a lot of tartan colors and a lot of different things to make them stand out. They also put a lot of value into clans and their heritage. Their armor is often either blue and white or white and blue, typically following the same style as the White Scars. So lightning edging to represent different companies and different types of markers to indicate companies as well. They do a lot of tattooing and different markings on their armor to make them stand out as well. So this unique style is something that I really like. I don't know if I could ever pull it off with my painting abilities, but I would love to see them on a tabletop someday. And if you're wanting to see more lore, they do have a brief appearance in Deathwatch Shadowbreaker. There isn't a lot of other lore about them besides the Deathwatch RPG that came out, I think in 5th edition. There they were really popular, but they haven't seen much lately. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the case for White Scars in general, and their successor chapters tend to see even less, which I think is unfortunate and is one of the reasons I really like them.
For the Emperor!
Next, we're going to be talking about what happens when the Ultramarines go wild. That is the Emperor's Spears. The Emperor's Spears are Ultramarines that were sent out to the fringes to guard everything. Unlike a lot of these other ones we've talked about, this one actually has a full novel by Aaron Dembski-Bowden called Spear of the Emperor. And we're going to see the almost barbaric nature of them that is tied into tribal culture and a lot of things like that, that I would expect from the White Scars or the Space Wolves, not so much from an Ultramarine successor. But we get to really enjoy that unique perspective. On top of that, if you want to be a little bit unique, but you still kind of want to play the Ultramarines, this gives you an opportunity to go sky blue and silver instead of royal blue and gold, to vary it enough that you feel unique while still enjoying the flexibility of the Ultramarines.
We stand ready.
Now, this last one, I think everybody saw coming. They're the Blood Angel successor that's cursed with eternal misfortune, and that is the Lamenters. The Lamenters are one of the unique stories that we talk about a lot in Warhammer 40k, but they don't really get any deep lore, and they don't really get played on the tabletop too much. Honestly, with how many people love the Lamenters, though, I suspect the only reason I don't see more play on the tabletop is that they have checkered shoulder pads. Honestly, that may be why they were cursed in the first place. Checkered shoulder pads are probably some of the most annoying things to paint in the world. So that may be the reason we don't get to see them on the tabletop as much. Maybe it may also be because people are superstitious and they don't want the Lamenters' bad luck to rub off on them. The good news with the Lamenters is you can pick up the Tears of Raphaela, which does have their story, and you get to see a little bit about what the Lamenters are and what they bring to the tabletop. These chapters may not get the love that we all would want from Games Workshop, but they are dripping with potential lore that you can create on the tabletop through your hobbying, as well as a lot of cool things you can do paint scheme-wise and that you can bring to your own chapter while still having some depth and lore. So I'm going to ask you right now, which of these chapters would you field on a tabletop if you could? And did I miss any? Are there forgotten chapters that I missed that have lore that I'm not aware of? Because I've been playing Warhammer 40k for about 5 years. I've hit that. I know enough about the lore to really understand the depth of what's going on, but I'm sure I still have missed a lot of stuff as well. And don't forget to go check out our sponsor for today, Dubby, which is an energy company that I've been working with for a little while now that I really enjoy. I use their products regularly, and I think you guys are going to enjoy that as well. Don't forget to use code WARGAME to get 10% off of your next purchase there. And I will see you guys later.